I'd like to thank Ellie and the Multimedia Salon for having me here today. And when I read the description that Ellie wrote about Karla, ceramic artist, installation artist, I was like, I'm not an installation artist. And then I went through all my photographs from years, and I'm like, gee, I kind of transitioned to be this installation artist, but thank you for saying that, because I really never thought of myself that way. And so what I want to talk about today is kind of my journey of where I've been and where I've come, and some of my creative processes, my methods, and some of my inspiration. Now, some of my inspirations are people, our mentors, our teachers, and I think it's really important that we honor that. And so I'm going to take you right into one of my inspirations. She's a ceramic artist, and her name is Adrienne Arleo. Well, let me kind of backtrack a little bit. At the age of 46, I had the opportunity to go to college. And so I went there with the intention of becoming an accountant. And, but I always had my hands in clay, and I always was trying to figure out how I could do clay. So once I had all my core classes done, I finally took a class in ceramics. And as soon as I got my hands in clay, I said, accounting? Forget about it. So when I was this was at Palm Beach State College, and I had two fantastic teachers there. Victoria Rose Martin. Most of us know Victoria Rose Martin. She was my first real ceramic teacher. And Nazare Feliciano, and I'm sure some of you know Nazare Feliciano. And so they had the confidence in me to push me in a direction that I had really never been pushed before. So after I graduated from there, I went on to FAU for my BFA in ceramics. And I had been looking at a lot of figurative work. I was interested in the figure, and Adrienne Arleo was one of my favorite artists at the time. And what I really was mostly attracted about not only her figures, but the texture. So I was interested more in texture than her deeply connected nature. She's connected to nature. That's a beehive texture. So she's very connected with nature. And this piece on the right, I just love that piece. And it's made with a little mold, a sprig mold, which shows up later on in my work. So these are all individual molds. And I had the opportunity to take a workshop right here at the Armory with her for 2 days, and it was really great. I remember telling the story about the sprig molds. Yes, I was sitting there in front of the TV making all these little hands. So it was an influence, but it didn't kind of show up till later on. And so when I got to FAU, one of my first hand building classes I took with another mentor of mine and very good friend, Angela de Cosala. And she is the kind of teacher that pushes you to really ask yourself, why am I doing this? Not because it's pretty, not just because it's the assignment of the day, you know, there's had to be a why there. So she started to make me think conceptually, and it was a really good lesson. So the one on the left, that's Journey, and that was one of my first self-portraits. It's a coil-built bust. And then it's carved, but it all was built together. So the head itself, I know it's an odd-looking head, but what it is, I took a ball of clay and pushed it into my palm with my thumb. And for me, these were all the people that really kind of saw me along the way or helped me along the way in whatever my journey was. And the piece on the right is Blue Persuasion, another self-portrait where I was just really starting to get into thinking about concept, and it kind of kept me awake at night. So I had this thing in my head that kept bothering me. It would wake me up. And I know we all think about things in art, and maybe they make us stay awake at night. Just coming here made me stay awake at night. So that's Blue Persuasion. And I wanted to show you a detail in the back, because that's how I felt. It was this gaping hole in my head that kept, telling me, to do it. But I want to tell a short story about this particular glaze because part of the ceramic process is learning how to glaze, learning how to make glazes. And it's scary. It's hard, it's not easy, but you know, it's kind of what you have to do. You have to make your own glazes. So I found a glaze that I liked. It's called Lana Chartreuse. But my intentions for the piece was for it to look like this. So I did a piece, made the glaze and I tested a piece, and that's how it came out, this kind of dark iron pinkish blush. And so you can imagine my surprise when I opened the kiln, so excited, I'm gonna go see my piece, and it was this bright yellow. I was like, oh no. I said I wanted it fired at cone 05, not 04, which is a higher temperature. So I was really upset about it. So we had a critique and sandblasted. All these suggestions were what I could do to change that horrible yellow head, that color. But I have another good friend. She does porcelain work, Gerby. And she said to me, and she's Russian, and she has this wonderful accent. She said, oh, Karla, just live with it for a while. And so I did, and I started to love her. And she actually was in one of the All-Florida shows. I think it was the 56th, because it's been a while ago. So she was in one of the All-Florida shows.
Why is she named Blue Persuasion?
Well, I kind of took it off of a song, and you'll remember it. Crystal Blue Persuasion. Yes, so that was kind of that persuasion in my head, and I always loved that song, so I stole some of it. This is currently, right now, these pieces are at Palm Beach State College Library. And so it's an installation there. And it was shown at the Ritter Gallery in a show called Coexistence. I submitted both these pieces. They took them both, and they put them together looking at each other. Well, that wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I was like, wow, but it was cool. So it's just like these discoveries when you see your work, when someone else sets it up for you, you're kind of surprised or not. So now that's where that's living. Still interested in the figure. Truthfully, I was watching the Olympics, and I saw one of the young girls on the balance beam lose her balance, and they zoomed in on her toes. So I don't want to talk too much about that, but that's what was my inspiration, was kind of like how in life we are hanging on for dear life. And with this piece, I used my own feet as models. Yes, I have high arches and long toes. And this was the first piece that I added another a multimedia part, you know, the wood and the iron. And my husband is wonderful, and he's my fabricator, and he helps me get me through these ideas. So another installation that I didn't really think was an installation. And so this is transition point. That's a detail. And the last piece and this piece were in my BFA show. And how many times have we thought, I'm walking on needles and pins or pins and needles? And so I just wanted to kind of show what that would be like. And that is 10,000 needles and pins. I had to order them online. And I just wanted to show maybe what pain could look like. And again, my husband, he helped me kind of figure out how am I going to balance this thing. So he's great.
So how did you balance it?
It's a wooden platform, and there's an iron rod that goes up the foot, and it's glued in there in both of them. And a lot of those pins are glued on the first layer, but most of them are just put on there. So they have to kind of be shook off and swept up. Installed. Thank you for pointing that out. I still was interested in the figure, and this is my inspiration for this is I started taking Taekwondo. And I had a mean axe kick, that's what they said. So this is the heel, the calf, and the knee. And that's the muscle system in the leg. Because in an axe kick, you get your leg up as hard as you can, and down it comes like an axe. So I was inspired by what I was doing. That's kind of crazy, but where you find inspiration. So, but I enjoyed doing this piece, again, then trying to get it into the wood to stay, and eventually it did break, sorry. That was such a precarious situation. So, but I was empowered by axe. Okay, so now I want to talk about some of my functional work. And I'm not going to show you a lot of functional work, but this teapot obviously kind of put me into the bird mode. And John McCoy was my professor for, I took some wheel throwing classes. I wanted to try to master the wheel. And I was a hand builder, but I wanted to take wheel classes, so I did. And so one of the projects was to create a series. And so I did a series of bird teapots. And all of those parts are thrown, the beak, the tail, the body, the lid, except for that little knob there. And it functions. So I made 5 of them, and I actually put them in the Mad Hatter teapot competition, and they all sold. So people love bird teapots. Okay, now I started doing mold making. And the project was to pick an object and make a mold, a plaster mold. And then put it in a situation or a place where you wouldn't normally see it. Or, you know. So I made this, I used chicken eggs. So I made a chicken egg necklace out of it, though. That was an actual necklace that you could wear. Not that I did. But, and then I placed it outside as an installation. At the time, I was also taking a painting class with Carol Prusa. Does anybody know Carol Prusa? Okay, she's awesome, awesome teacher. And I showed her, I was excited about this necklace, so I showed her the necklace, and she's like, put it on, and she's like, oh, this is so cool. Will you make me one? So I was like, really? So I thought, well, okay, I'll make her one, but I'm going to make a mold of a quail egg, so I could downsize it and make it more elegant and beautiful. So that's what I did. I made a mold of quail eggs. This is a slip cast mold. It's not a press mold, so you have to really, I don't know if anybody has done any slip casting. Yeah, it's all a timing. It has to be just right. So that was an 8-minute egg. Yeah. Yeah, they're very tiny. Yeah.
Do you still have them?
Yes.
Those are so cool.
Yeah, I have the mold, and the mold in itself is a piece of art. I look at it that it's beautiful. And yeah, I mean, it's carefully taken care of. The outside is sure formed, and you know, it's details, all the details. So I want to show you Carol at her reception with the necklace.
What's this?
That's the necklace that I made out of those eggs. And she was just great. So she wore that. She shows her art at, which is no longer open, but Bernice Steinbaum down in the Wynwood district. She's a very well-known artist. So she honored me. Okay, I'm still mold making, and I'm getting ready to graduate, so I want to have one fantastic piece. And I had the 2 feet pieces. They were white, so I'm going to stay in the white mode, and I'm going to work in this porcelain because porcelain has historically is precious. It's this precious material. So this figure is based on the Venus of Willendorf, only she is brought into the modern times with maybe some body issues and hair problems, but diet and exercise. That's what it was really about for me personally. You hit it on the nose, is that I was going through losing weight and exercising, and so I look around me in Palm Beach Gardens and in Boca Raton, where I was going to school, and I see a lot of women that are maybe taking the easy way out. So, but anyway, it was based on that, plus the delicacy of porcelain. So anyway, here is the piece in the gallery, and it was called Cast, Conform, Reform. And yeah, it's my little army of women, and they are in beeswax. Thank you.
We never saw this, Karla.
No. It's a secret. Yeah, they're actually, I mean, I could tell you how it's a copper wire. They're on the copper wire. Then I poured the beeswax. It was a two-person. My husband, helped me. This is two people. And I'm kind of, I don't want to really go. You can kind of see that we are cast, all is the same human beings. We can conform or we can reform. We can, rise above it. So that was kind of my idea.
Where's this piece now?
In my bedroom. Oh, no, in my office. I'm sorry, in my office. There's a detail. Do you know the Venus of Willendorf? And I should have shown a picture of her. It's a braid that goes around their head. She's a fertility, maybe the first fertility symbol. You could fit her in the palm of your hand from Mesopotamia.
But with a very different body type.
Very different,
Yeah.
rotund.
Yes.
That was my juxtaposition of, what was and what could be. It's a, wooden kind of platform, and there's copper wires in every single one of those. There's a hole in the bottom that they were put on. And then I poured the beeswax, and that kept them from, they can move a little bit. I wanted them to be able to move a little bit because I moved them. What you'll notice is some of them, when you pull something out of a mold, it still has the seam, right? So kind of how we are as humans. Do we keep the seam or remove it? So some of them I removed it, but some of them I left it as it was. And this piece was in the 57th annual Boca All Florida show, and I actually got a Judge's Merit Award for this piece. And when I came into the gallery, this plexiglass was over the top of it, and I was like, wow, because I didn't deliver it that way. I just brought that in, and of course I didn't bring the top part because, truthfully, in the exhibition, not many people looked up. I don't know if you find that a lot of people don't look up. So I just said, I'm just going to bring this anyway. I really like that they put the plexiglass over the top of it because it just made it more precious. Because when we think of our grandmother's curios, or they keep their porcelain little figurines behind the glass, and it just, for me, made it more precious. So I really like that.
Also gives it the infinity effect and the reflection.
Yes. Yeah, it is very cool. Yeah, I was so happily surprised when I saw that.
There are two associations that I have to it. One of them is the Chinese warriors.
Yes. Yes.
Except these are very female and kind of advancing. Is it amazing?
Somebody said to me, it was at a show in St. Petersburg, and she said, I just love your army of women. And I was like, wow.
And the other thought that I had is, I think it's Vanessa Beescroft. Have I got her? I'm not sure if I've got her name right. Who does installations with naked women standing still in a room.
Large ones?
Real women.
Life size.
Like
Real women?
Live
women.
women.
I love that.
Yes.
Breathing women.
Yes.
We could all be one.
But naked and standing in attention in space like that.
I'll share this. I wasn't going to share that much, but the judge of the show, when they were announcing the winners, he said, and this piece is truly magnificent. And Carol Prusa was standing next to me, and she's like, that's your mantra. And so I've used it a few times. Don't forget, I'm truly magnificent. So I thought that was great. Okay, one more mold. Okay, Carol Prusa hired me as a fabricator to make 100 tongues. Okay, and I have them there, and yes, they do reference something else. But she wanted to do an installation, but she paid me, and she made the clay piece, which I made a mold of. That's a 3-part mold. It's not easy. I did make 2 of them. So I just wanted to show you that, there's so many other ways to be involved in the art. Yes, she hired me to make 100 tongues. I don't remember how many that was timed for, probably 6 minutes, but I would set the stove timer. And there they are installed. Yeah. Aren't they wild? This is an old older picture. Tongues. Now, when you go home tonight, look in the mirror and stick out your tongue as far as you can, and you will see these two little knots on the end, because I had to do that. I go, where did she get tongue from? Really? Really? You're all going to do it, too. I know you are. Okay, now we're coming into the crows. I know, it is tame after the... I didn't know it was going to be so naughty, but... Okay, I have some things on Etsy. I don't right now. People know about Etsy. It's a place where you can sell crafts, whatever, art, anything, anything. And so I had a little blue bird teapot on Etsy, and someone sent me a message. I love your little blue bird teapot, but could you make me a crow or a raven? And so I really started thinking, oh, okay, do I want to do this? What was going to happen in the next 6 months was that I was going to have a show at the EC campus at the Palm Beach State College. I was going to be in a show with 2 other artists, and I really didn't know what I was going to do yet. I didn't know, was I going to do functional? Was I going to do sculptural? Was I going to do figurative? I really didn't know. So that was my first message. And then on my daily walks with my dogs, I love dogs, you all know that, there would be this crow on top of this telephone pole cawing at me. And it happened, it was like 2 weeks, this crow, you know, and, I mean, he was all puffed out, going, caw, caw. So I said, okay. And this was, so now this happened, she's asked me to do this, and then I saw a PBS special called A Murder of Crows. Yes? Okay. So when I saw that and I saw how wickedly intelligent they were and how much they are like us, okay, I'm going to do my whole body. I'm going to make her crow teapot, but I'm going to make a mold, another mold, and I'm going to make a lot of crows. So that's how that all came about, is those 3 things that pushed me to make this body of work about crows. And this piece pours from there. You lift this to put the water in, and it lifts out of the nest, and it's on a foot.
How cool.
So it does function. And then after she got it, she asked me would I make her 2 cups, like tea bowls that look like eggs. And I did. So this was the exhibition, Natural Interactions. And I really feel that such a connection to this bird. And so here's the crow on the pole. There he is.
And those background pieces?
Those are Nazare Felicianos, and they're called April showers. They're representing clouds, and they're petals made out of porcelain. So we had this kind of natural vibe going on in a natural interaction between birds in the sky and things going on like that. Okay, this is Guardian. As I got better at them coming out of the mold, well, when they come out of the mold, they're just this basic shape, and I cut their head off, and I add more tail, and I add more wings, and I carve, and they're fired 3 times. The feet, I know you're going to ask me this, so I'm going to tell you, the feet are made out of copper, soldered copper. My husband solder coppers those feet for me, and it gets a lot of credit. And they're wrapped with telephone line. This is all figured out in Home Depot in one afternoon. Yeah. And the black shiny is liquid electrical tape. Did anybody know that existed? I didn't. And I picked it up in the aisle and I went, "What's this, honey?" Oh, he said, "That could work." And it did. Only I have certain ones that I really like. Some are shinier and some are kind of flat. Electrical tape. Or tool dip. And yeah, he's here tonight. This is my first crow. And when, you know, it's such a risk to figure out if it's going to work. So the feet were made. I made one crow, one set of feet, and glued him in there, epoxied him in there, and he stood on his feet. And so it was really, I was happy about that. So he's kind of fat because, you know, he's kind of gluttonous. So it's what people do, you know. I kind of, we eating McDonald's French fries a little bit too much. I bought a box of McDonald's French fries, and I don't go to McDonald's. So I went in there and I asked for some French fries and quickly wrapped, you know, like closed the bag so when it came in my car, it wouldn't smell up my car. And then I put it in the refrigerator right away because I didn't want to smell it. But they lasted a month. Then I threw them away. They could have lasted longer. But anyway, I did. I put them out on the table, and I really referenced the shape of the fry. The container is the real thing. I didn't feel like making another mold.
Statistically, Karla, the real fry would have lasted 4 to 6 months. That's how many preservatives they have.
Yep. Yep. I had a feeling. Yep. They didn't change it all in a month, so I had a feeling you had a good. Yeah, good. Yeah. Good performance. Oh no, I'm not going there now. And here's it, kind of, I ramped up the title a little bit to reference maybe a little obesity in America, but I won't, you know, I'm not going to suggest that, but gluttony, the mind rules the belly, which is true. I like this piece, it's communion. It's, the crows work as a family. They stay together. If one dies, they mourn. They all take care of the fledglings together. So I wanted to call this communion. He always said he would come back as a crow. I know you want to know the story, right? Okay. I have a very dear friend who lost her husband, and she knew I knew I was going to be doing these crows, and we were talking about it. And she shared that he had a pet crow, and he loved crows. And one day, you know, it flew away or whatever, and he said she said he said this to me. He always said he would come back as a crow. So in honor of Don, this is her and I talking about it at Christopher's Kitchen. Finders keepers. Crows love shiny objects, and they love to collect things. So that's all it is. Adaptation. This is a nest that's made from a found branch, spray painted, and it's made from I don't know how many hangers. White metal hangers, the base, and then the nest itself is a found nest with some found there's some dog hair in there, my neighbor's dog hair, and things, just things I would find on my walks. And actually now I have a lot of things I've been collecting for maybe lots of nests, I don't know, maybe someday. These were hanging from the ceiling, flying to the nest. What I found really interesting about this is that, like I said, sometimes people don't look up. They zoned in on this. They didn't really notice the birds above it. But they saw that they thought it was, oh, isn't that cool, you know, that adaptation that they can make a nest out of crows, out of hangers. But I didn't make it up. It actually, in Japan, crows are using hangers as nests because they're in a city in Japan. They've run out of material to make nests. So I did not make it up. If you saw, you know, a murder of crows, it's kind of amazing. They have a crow patrol that comes down and takes them off the power lines because they short out the power. So I didn't make it up, but I thought, why not use it? This is called Murder of Crows. Well, you know, school of fish, gaggle of geese, murder of crows. And when I first looked at online and it said murder of crows, I'm like, who's murdering crows, right? Anyway, so this is murder of crows. This piece flew around quite a bit. The wings are made separately. I use a paper pattern. Just make a paper pattern and carve. Then I flip it over and do the other side. I had to make sure I had right, left, which way the wings were carved, which way the texture would go to try to line up. And the wings are, then I kind of make a male-female part, and they are epoxied in. There's a close-up. And here's another close-up that I love. Because he's really interacting with it, and I think that's so cool. It showed at the Armory, and this was the On the Map exhibition. Cheryl was also in that show. Were you in that show too, Ellie, right? Yeah. I really like this because this little, that is a marble bra with 2 marble socks hanging from, I think it was like a metal cord or a stainless cord. And I just love the idea that it was going to fly up over that. So I got the perfect spot. And then after that, now it's living in Hope Sound in a collector's house. Outside the box. Everybody know the Whitespace? Yes. And so I was in a show there, and a couple other people.
Steve Backus, who was here last month.
He was in it. Cheryl Mader, Isabel.
Right.
So we were in this show. And it was a proposal to have 2 nights of...
and Sibel was the curator.
And Sibel Kokobasi was the curator. To have an installation that would easily go up and come down in 2 nights and not disrupt the nature around it. So my proposal was to have 18 to 20 crows eating McDonald's French fries. And so from that, the Mordays love my crows so much they actually purchased 10 of them. So I have them living there. And they have quite the view. So I have 3 that are hanging, and then she wanted 3 above.
That is very cool.
Yeah, and what's cool is they tell me that real crows come and visit them. Yeah, I was there one day, and the installer grabbed me and goes, Karla, come here. There's a big black crow, and it's talking to one of your crows.
That's a stamp of authenticity.
Yeah,
That is so cool.
it is cool.
Yeah, it's a real thing.
Then she has 4 more, and there's 3 of them. And she, when she has dinner parties outside, she puts them on the table like they're eating the dip or the food. And so she really loves the crows. I took adaptation and showed it somewhere else at Rolando's at the Boynton Beach Art District. And it was in a show called FO, Found Objects. So I like that I put this in a space, and he put it all on its own in this black, dark space. And so it's like you can repurpose your work here and there, so in a different way. And there's a detail with some found objects. So here we are with Mr. Electric Hair. For a long time, I wanted to make a rabbit and embellish him with all those sprig molds. And I do functional work too, and I had been making sprig molds for a really long time and embellishing cups and bowls and pitchers with these little buttons, and they're all made from buttons and objects. It could be a ring that I put clay into it, or whatever, an object that texture I like, then I fire that, then I put clay into that, and then that's attached. The rabbit itself was built solid, cut apart, put back together, and then I started, those are all individual molds. And he's fired 3 times, and he also has Swarovski crystals on him. So here's Candescent Crow. Same thing, just purple. And Elaine invited me to be at our Palm Beach, big honor. So I showed these 3 pieces there. And so I have a red crow too, and I didn't have a good picture of the red crow. It was not a good picture. And I just wanted to show you some of my hand-built pottery. I do like to break away from concept and just and these are all made from patterns, like sewing. So, a semicircular pattern would make a bowl or a cup. And so this is some of my most recent functional pottery. And this is my final piece. This is Guardian. Again, I use the name Guardian. Well, he was going to live with my cousin in Houston, so he's living there now. And he also has Swarovski crystals on him. He has a satin matte finish rather than glossy. So I think he's my best crow. So And I went to a Japanese artists, women artists exhibition at the Murakami about a year and a half ago. And I love this woman's work. It was just very simple, understated, round objects. But I love what she had to say. In the shapeless, chaotic universe, at this moment, I leave my mark in clay. Nenko Kaji. I hope I can make my mark in clay.